Directed not to.
Kind of use it almost one lane as it is. So.
That one's just a mess.
Whenever you're ready, Sarah.
Ready when you are.
Okay, let's get started.
Okay, so.
Awesome. Hi, everyone. I am Councilwoman Sue Anderborn, the chair of the North Main Street Task Force. Excited to kick off our Wednesday, January 15th meeting. The time is sometimes 5:32. I'm going to call the roll.
Chair Anderson.
I'm present.
Vice Chair again.
Present.
Lieutenant Brown is absent. Marissa Lopes is absent. Rachel Peterson.
I'm present.
Peter Camara.
Present.
Thomas Badaway is absent. Sarah Engel.
Here.
Jessica Lance.
Present.
Nate Urso.
Here.
Sean Raymond.
Present.
Rosie Jackwell is absent. We have 8 present and 4 absent. We have a quorum.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Also a big thanks to the city clerks for being here, as well as the legal department. We've got Kyle and Trisha from our team here, council staff and some invited guests. So I'm excited to get us started on our first meeting. I'm actually going to take us out of order. Do I need a motion for that? Claire?
Yes.
Okay. I'm gonna let Kyle give his update first. If I could have a motion to take item 2 out of order, please.
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Excellent, thank you so much. So we have some updates, since the last meeting. I'm also gonna say that the update from the police will actually be next time. Lieutenant Brown had to be at a conference, and we thought it'd be best if they gave their update while he's here. As the member of the task force, but Kyle and Trisha have some updates for us, on what happened since our last meeting on some of the ongoing projects. So Kyle, thank you for being here.
Kyle, do you have anything brought up on the screen? Everybody has copies, but you.
No, that's okay.
Okay.
Kyle Delgado, Director of Project Management for the Providence City Council. As everybody is aware, we previously talked about the lighting project that is going on with Main Street. I am working with public property and their vendor Prism on installing lights throughout the corridor. The first phase was done during the winter. We had a few different spots where we picked. And ever since that installed in the fall, we've been working closely with Prism on identifying kind of where the next phases of our installs will be. In our last meeting, it was brought up that North Burial Ground and beyond, towards like the Pawtucket line is an area of interest, and there are some gaps over there as well. So I actually sat down with the person today, and the Avari contractor who does like the GIS lighting, GIS mapping. And they actually did say that there are some gaps over there that we can actually mobilize on clearance, and there's a significant amount of infrastructure that's already in place there, poles and whatnot, that we can just easily install some lighting fixtures right on the poles and plug them into some existing light infrastructure, like the electrical. So we actually are planning to mobilize on that within like the next 1 to 2 months. Like that is something that we immediately see like we can address pretty quickly. So in the short term, that is where we're kind of focusing our efforts, north of the North Burial Ground towards the Pawtucket line. In the meaning of that, we are actually looking at the southbound direction on the North Burial Ground stretch. There are significant gaps in that stretch right there that we have some poles that we can have them on there, but there are also some areas where we might have to get some installs on there. So we'll let RIDOT know about that and work closely with them on there. But that is something that we believe we can get done in the later winter, early spring time. So that is something that's going to be happening. It's still short term, but a little bit sequenced after what we do north of North Burial Ground. And then what we actually have here, this little packet, we've been working with the councilwoman as well to identify some decorative lighting pedestrian shoulder level, not like the overhead style that we plan to install at University Market median area. That was one area that was identified as a significant dark area, and then that intersection over there with the weird geometric crossings and whatnot is a very problematic stretch. So we are, when I sat down with prison today, what they're going to do is actually look at that medium, literally from Pauling to Doyle, like that whole stretch right there, that block. They're going to look at basically the best approach to the spacing of how many is going to take. And then we're going to put in the order for that. The order will probably take about 16 to 20 weeks. So we're trying to get that nailed in as quick as possible, because then it will probably take a few months for it to actually get here. So we envision that it's going to probably happen later on spring, latest early summer, if there's anything. On top of that median area, they're also looking at the only intersection there. There's some lighting outages, so we're gonna look to reactivate some of those lighting outages. And actually, there's like that little median island that's like right in the middle of the street there that we're actually gonna look to try to install some lights as well, right there underneath. So that's really the short term, medium term, and like longer term for like this spring/summer. So the north of the North Burial Ground, where it's kind of the easiest for us to tackle right now. The southbound approach on North Burial Ground, all along that stretch, and then looking at the University Marketplace with some decorative lower level pedestrian lights, just because some of the trees there. So we want to make sure that the lighting will be unimpeded. And then also I did flag for them that, you know, we've had talks about the streets that feed into, like the side streets of North Main Street. One of the major issues, I think, from a Vision Zero standpoint in pedestrian safety is, you know, the right turns onto streets and whatnot. And there's a few different intersections that have inadequate lighting, really either coming right into North Main Street or just like on the right approach, right up the intersection there. So we're strategically trying to adjust those intersections and some of those side streets. I don't have the exact streets yet. They're actually still looking into those. But those will be where we also focus our efforts feeding into it. So I think next time we're here, I'll have Avari in prison actually here so we can have a more substantial presentation of that stuff. They're still kind of inputting data to be able to have a more robust GIS understanding of what's going on. But early indications are basically that, you know, we'll be approaching those side streets next there. So the lighting, if you see on the first page, that is of your packet, that is the head that we're looking at. And then you get kind of, you know, within the specs and whatnot. But I believe if you look on these two, I think it's that second one in the middle. It's the one that we're looking at. The ball. I believe that is the one that we're going with. And that one there. And then on page 4. The highlighted pole that is in 2, 3, 4 from the left is the pole we're looking at. And then a decent picture of what it kind of looked like is the last 2 pages there. The style lights that we're looking to install in the regular place. Oh, different from the other ones that were installed, we'll install overheads. Throughout the rest of them, they're cheaper, easier to put up. These ones have like a longer lead time for the materials that we have to get. But we wanted to go with a definitely level lighting in that area and also one that kind of brings an aesthetic area as well. So that has been, you know, the progress that we've made since our last update here. It's still some preliminary things, but we think we'll start getting action going in the next couple of weeks.
Thanks, Scott. And just to add, also part of the pedestrian level lighting is because Avari did find that there is tree cover that kind of blocks some of the overhead lighting. And it's a nice balance between, we don't want to like cut down some really lovely street trees that help keep everything pretty cooler. And also people are getting hit at that intersection all the time. So let's like light it up. And it creates like there is no walking and pedestrian is in that area. So That's why, that's another reason why we're looking at this, size and scale.
Yeah, and I think one thing that Councilman was great about pointing out as well in her Nature Conservancy Act is on the North Burial Ground, south bound approach, where we're trying to find a nice little median of illuminating the light for safety, but also not to disturb the wildlife. There and cause light pollution as well. So we are, finding that balance as well, and trying to be strategic with the Avari and Prism on that as well. So we have some things in motion. I think, some of these things overlap with like the report that we got, some of it from the RSA, and then also just from the Avari tools that we have so far, striking up a nice balance and where our priority spots are. So, yes.
Any questions for Kyle or comments?
A couple. This sounds great. I'm excited to hear like so much is moving ahead so quickly. Just so I understand some of the details, so the north of North Burial Ground, it sounds like that's like the position of lighting is mostly guided by like where there are existing tolls and infrastructure you can use, right?
Correct, yeah, there are holes and then there's significant like electrical infrastructure that is easy for them to be able to.
And to jump on what Kyle's saying too, there's also a lot of existing businesses like the Sandwich Hut and others, and it's basically their businesses that are lighting up that corridor as opposed to like actual streetlights. So wanting to make sure that like we're lighting up where people are walking as they're trying to like shop at these restaurants and businesses. But it's not only the lights coming out of their own businesses that are affected.
So one of the big concerns up there that I have is some of the major intersections not only don't have lighting, but like when I looked at them, didn't seem to have poles nearby where you could put a light. So I guess I'm wondering, like, is any of this focused around like the Smithfield Ave intersection, for instance? That's one of the like highest traffic, darkest spots, and like I don't know if you're having to add poles or if there's a solution for there.
So you're saying the Smithfield Ave intersection doesn't have any poles and it's dark?
The last time I looked at it, there were no lights within, 150 feet of it. Yeah, and I think the last time we reviewed this, it was like, it didn't look like there was like any kind of low hanging fruit in terms of, we could stick a light on that pole. And that's just one example. A couple of the other intersections there, at least one or two, also kind of like didn't have good places to put lights. So I guess I want to make sure that we're not just lighting the middle of the block, but that we're like coming up with, I mean, the middle of the block is great and also important, but like we need plans for the intersections and the crossings.
Yeah, no, that's great feedback. I think in after this meeting, maybe we can have a conversation, just have some feedback, you just being out there as well. And we can make sure we prioritize some locations like that, but.
And I guess kind of related to that, and I guess this applies to that area and the median stuff, which is also very exciting. Because we're presumably spending a lot of money on this, it's kind of like our chance to putting in some lighting. Is there like a chance for us to review the plan at some stage of the process of where lights are being put and like offer some input? Like, I don't want to hold up things that are in the works. I just want to make sure that we like don't overlook spots and then don't have an opportunity to do and think about it again.
Yeah, I think that's where Prism and Avari is right now doing their evaluation on it's the best spacing of it. But that's why I said I would love for them to come back next meeting, and just have that readily available for everybody to see, which is how they plan to place it.
So like before things are finalized, we'll have a chance to maybe get some.
I'm going to like next meeting to do that as well.
Okay, and then just in terms of like who's responsible for what in this process. I'm not an expert in lighting, despite having done a little bit of work on this, but I've learned that there's some like pretty detailed like Federal Highway Administration guidelines for exact spacing, how far you set it back from the crosswalk, like how the decorative lighting, how you deal with glare that gets in driver's eyes and actually makes a pedestrian harder to see. Like, whose responsibility is it to kind of consult best practices and standards for this? Is that Avari? In terms of coming up with the plan?
Yeah, I think it'll be Prism, like our lighting contractor in conjunction with the public property, like them working together on that.
And that's a lot of the feedback they've already been bringing to our meetings, right, Kyle? Like, I know when I brought up like, oh, there's wildlife in the park, like, okay, well, these are the types of lights that are keeping things out of people's eyes. This is the type of light we can have that keeps it out of the park, but gets it on the street. Like, that is Prism's solid based.
Yeah, they get very detailed on like how much glare they want to be able to.
Yeah, I get a little snoozy, but like, but I know that they like.
They're the experts on that.
They have concerns, but I don't remember.
I believe in conjunction with public property, they take all that into consideration.
Okay, great, this sounds great, yeah, just to kind of reiterate my main concern, I want us to have like a chance to like look at some stuff before it's totally punished, to the extent possible, thanks.
And I would welcome the feedback on the, beyond the North Barrier realm, to the Kentucky line, areas of concern, and I can definitely keep that over. Make sure that's being under consideration there.
Any other questions about? Yeah.
So I just want to clarify, did you say that some of the lights would be installed in the median, in the street?
And the median
Did
at
I
the
understand that?
University Marketplace. yeah.
Oh, at University, that median, so
And like you guys are in the sidewalk.
on the north end, it would be closer to Pawtucket, in the sidewalk. Okay, okay. Gotcha.
Does that work for you? Is that?
I think if I saw, as Jamie said, some sort of
Yeah.
map of what is proposed, it'd be easier to react. I
Yeah,
mean, theoretically, sure,
okay,
guess I need to see.
yeah, so let's invite them.
More light sounds good,
Yeah.
Yeah,
We can all agree on that.
yeah.
it'll be more or less like the overhead styles that are kind of already existing throughout the length street poles. But yeah, sure. More open transparency.
And Kyle's been working super hard to make all this happen, because lighting been coming up, and so. And also, again, big shout out to the council president who helped us, navigate, acquiring funding for this, so.
Absolutely.
Just so we can get the credit.
We have a sense of like how much funding,
About $400,000?
Wow.
$500,000. Cool, thank you. Kyle.
Yeah, absolutely.
And just to preview what the police were gonna share is they put back out their, sleds on, how fast people are going. Sorry, my brain is like catching up from work, like the transition. They had their speeding sleds out, for the last couple of weeks and been collecting data. And they had them out at this time last year too, so they have some data that they can show us to see like, is anything helping? And they've had a lot more enforcement now, as well. So they'll have some information that they can share with us, from those sleds. They thought they might be ready tonight, but with Lieutenant Brown out of town, it just seemed better for everybody to do it next time. Yeah.
So is it possible to have information on that about the no turn on red spots?
Oh, that's great. Yeah, I'll ask Lieutenant Brown.
I've seen like, I mean, it's like anecdotal, so like their data would probably be more useful, but I've seen like a mix. In terms of how that's going, like some drivers seem to notice and some don't.
what's your question, that's what you're, like if.
Like if they're tracking anyway, like
Oh,
if we can have data or what they're observing with the right turn on reds.
Yeah,
I mean, they spend more time on North Main Street than I do.
yeah.
They probably track it better than me.
At the intersections with the, like the red light cameras, are we capturing any data there or ticketing, right turn on red in places where it's no longer legal? Like at Doyle?
I think the police might be better,
Yeah, okay.
better to answer that, because, yeah, they oversee the enforcement. I'm not really sure what
Okay.
what the rules are in terms of that.
I thought we wanted to do that with the.
I don't know,
Yeah.
so.
I guess,
I
Kevin,
guess-
you could,
I thought it was like that quarter mile
yeah.
thing or something, but.
That's for.
That's a speed.
for speeding?
That's red light running.
Red light cameras are different.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I think
Cause
depending
yeah,
on,
they're all.
Oh, yeah. those-
It's all
yeah.
just based on.
It's a different kind of violation, fee,
Yeah.
but that's okay.
yeah, speeding is only allowed in the school zone. Yeah, I think depending on whether it's a right is loud or not, I think they do ticket that, but they can clarify that.
Okay.
Yeah, I
Because
could-
they're a little more involved in the enforcement.
the one that-
I mean, some of it's like just behavioral, like they've been doing it for so long, you
Yeah.
know, like I had a funny interaction, because I was waiting to cross at Doyle. And someone kind of whipped through there, what was a red, and the next guy was about to go, and I politely kind of shrug pointed at the sign. And then he saw it and he stopped and he like rolled down his window and he was apologizing, and he's like, I didn't see it, I'm so sorry, the guy ahead of me, and I'm like. "It's fine."
Yes.
You know what I mean, but the person behind him was about to go too, it's like once one goes,
Yeah,
they all just keep doing it and they're used to it, so.
Talk about signs, how sometimes people ignore them, but especially when they're so used to doing that.
Yeah, when
They're
they-
used to
Before
doing
they
it,
were
and
there.
when in front of them does it, like if one stops, obviously they all stop, but if one goes,
Yeah.
That's pretty much all we
We
know.
talked about, some sort of more obvious, like light up signage or something for the no turn on red, like, remember, like, we had an email exchange about the red arrow that like flashes or something, to kind of alert you that no turn on red.
Yeah, I think, might depend on the intersection and some of the infrastructure out there is pretty cool, so I think, you know, when things get replaced, someone's gonna go in, but. Yeah, that, you know, that those are, we haven't done. Only like one intersection to state we've actually implemented so far, but.
Might be it.
So that seems like something to look into, because part of it is like the light is way up here, and then the sign is down like pedestrian height on the median, so it's like they're having to look in a totally different spot.
But if you had like.
And it's so small compared to all the other, I mean, like, right, like Doyle, you know, makes such a big intersection, it's so small
Yeah,
compared to everything that they're looking at.
where something new, like a big LED red slash or something is gonna catch your eye, and like another.
Or if it's just like
sign.
next to the light that they already have to look at.
Yeah.
I feel like even, I don't know, I should know because I drive on this road all the time, but, like paint. You know, painting, like refreshing
Yeah,
the parking lane, especially where there's bus stops, really sort of clarifying that. Whether it's striping or however those are supposed to be notated. Just so that it's one more thing the driver can see to sort of remind them, like, that's not a travel lane.
yeah, it's not turn
And then maybe they'll. Someone would have to actually assess whether I'm imagining that there's like.
Well, that
less
would be,
paint or like that it's more faded than it really is.
and it needs to
but-
be the street going into North Main, not. Like North Main Street probably has the right paint,
I feel like, yeah.
but it's like for Doyle, it's like Doyle is what you want to be looking at.
I think North Main turning onto Rochambeau, I might be wrong about this, I feel like there's a bus stop there that isn't necessarily striped as a bus stop. That,
Yeah, there's-
we're correct, I should know this, but.
There's a shoulder that people use as a
Yeah.
turn lane, and I think it's wide enough that to some people it looks like a lane. We
I
have
know
been putting
it
in physical barriers, we did like, we the water filled barriers that were in the last iteration of the RSA. Where do we stand on that stuff?
I'm also gonna note that we are way
Sorry,
off the
you're
agenda, and we've invited guests, and we
Sorry,
can't talk
sorry.
about things in our
Okay.
agenda, so.
Alright.
Don't feel like, oh, bring it back in, it's so great, and also, I would love if we could read item number 1 into the record and invite our invited guests to the table.
Presentation from Miriam Hospital on planned construction near North Main Street. Presentation by David Britton.
Thanks for being here, David, welcome.
How.
However you'd like, we can bring it up on the screen, you're welcome to steal Kyle's seat, if you don't mind, Kyle.
Since you all have the packet, it'd be nice up there to help guide you forward a little bit. Marion is very excited to be undertaking, this project after many years. The last renovation that we did, that was major, was the back building in 2007. And a lot's happened in healthcare in the state since then. Our biggest challenge has been Memorial closing and, a different dynamic, or demographic of patient. And increased volume. As we look for solutions, this first slide here is the picture of the back building. Our renovation project is really focused on this building here. It's the A building. It started life as an orphanage. It was built in 1926. There's a brick veneer, single pane glass, and wood frame structure that is not suitable for healthcare, so it currently houses nothing but administrative personnel. So we're looking to take this down, build a new contemporary low energy index building to help us achieve some future net zero goals. And while we're doing that, this slide here just shows the location to give you a better view of where we are. It's right on the corner of 7th and 5th Street.
While you take a breath, it's like 2 blocks down, just so folks know why we've invited Miriam. We've talked about them many times in this committee, and like, it's like 2 blocks that way, for those of you who don't walk your dog by Miriam Hospital every single day, twice or 3 times a day, like myself. North Main is just like 2 blocks down. Continue, sorry about that.
No, that's good. The yellow star is our main entrance, and the red star is the Sonic Evening entrance, which is located in very close proximity to our ambulance entrance, so we've had a number of near misses. With pedestrian traffic, our new, we're gonna leave our ambulance entrance in its current location and move the walk-in entrance over near the front lobby. And while we do this, we are focused on our carbon footprint, patient flow, and our commitment also to the neighborhood and the Summit Neighborhood Association. This is not geared to increase our patient volume. It's a solution to deal with our current volume with the resources that we have. Couple of pictures of our existing campus. Go ahead.
I didn't fully hear something you said. I think you said something about pedestrian traffic. I'm not sure whether you said pedestrian traffic or patient traffic.
Well,
A few sentences.
it's,
ago.
it's self-presenting walk-in traffic that we struggle with next to the, ambulance entrances.
Did you say that there were near misses? I just wasn't sure if I'm.
Yeah, so we actually have enough room for about 4 ambulances. And our recent traffic in peak time has been as many as 10 or 12 ambulances in the area, and it gets very hectic. And people don't stay in the designated sidewalk areas, and it's very easy for them to walk in an area they shouldn't be while an ambulance is backing up. And we feel the best thing to do is just completely move that walk-in entrance away from the ambulance traffic. So the only traffic that we would have on that side of the hospital would be people driving to Fane as an ambulance, which has a drop-off location in its own driveway underneath an overhang, and then the ambulances themselves. So just in an effort to try and segregate and provide better safety. So this is a rendering from our architect showing the plan design, trying to keep in line with the existing architectural back building that was approved back then by the neighborhood. And I want to say about 2 years ago, I started having a neighborhood meeting to try and make sure we had open communication and presenting to people as possible. Our back building project that finished in 2006, 2007, at some point, and that was very contentious with the work that we were doing in our neighborhood. And I wanted to make sure that we had open lines of communication, good feedback from the neighborhood. So that we incorporated their ideas into our design. On this slide, in the front, and I'm probably gonna pronounce it wrong, I'm just gonna jump a couple of slides. A Miyawaki planted area, which is a natural forest that is supposed to be helpful for pollinating species and low water needs.
I wanted to just hearing about these from the city councilor of Princeton, New Jersey, who's asking if we had them in the city, and I was like, I don't think so. Anyway, one, apparently it'd be 2 blocks from
So the nearest ones that we're aware of from our consultant is, I believe, Cambridge, Massachusetts has a few of these. So we're looking to experiment with it and try it out and see how it works, not only for us. It's supposed to be low maintenance, and have a natural look to it. We're creating some seating areas here, for people within that would maybe waiting for patients or loved ones. But it's an interesting concept. We're trying to minimize, again, thinking of net zero, how much water we use, environmentally conscious. Any questions on that?
No, this is great, and one other thing I'll say for that too is, from a stormwater perspective, so Miriam is like halfway up the hill, but there's a lot of water that comes flooding straight down the hook down onto North Main Street, and I know there's been flooding and cooling on those mains, so anything like this that can kind of capture it on the way down, that's awesome, so I appreciate that.
So the next slide, just going to what we're looking for is a contemporary look. In the background, you're going to see an accent wall that's related to our new branding with Brown University Health. And we're trying to get away from some of the stone, darker tan colors that we currently have now and get into, something brighter, maybe a little happier, and not so drab. We're also trying to add some curves and provide segregated areas. We learned a lot from COVID, that one seating area with a lot of people that is not necessarily good. So we put glass dividers in areas so we can see people and try and congregate either that may have a respiratory versus either that don't. And again, contemporary design, trying to modernize. This is a new hallway that we'll be creating to replace one that currently cuts through right the middle of our existing ED. Again, most of this project is really driven by trying to find the best efficiencies and utilization of the square footage that we have. So this moves out to the front of the building. It creates a pathway for people to get from one side of the block to the other side of the block if they need to go to same building across the street. And we're open to different ideas about what we might be putting in this area. We're thinking about, memorializing previous donors and historical people of significance to the area. And providing a canvas for some artwork and stuff. Just an overhead view of what the new lobby section is gonna look like. A lot of thought went into, the current environment. We're adding weapons detection. We added evolved weapons detection to our current ED, and all of those thoughts are gonna carry over into our new design at both our main entrance and, our new ED entrance. So over to the left, we have the speckle of, gray boxes on the green background. That is the new section of the ED. And again, bed count to bed count, it is equal in size to the current teams 1 through 6 that we have at the ED. Rooms are slightly larger, to meet today's code. But the count, again, we're not expanding ED room capacity. We're working within our existing license level, but we're trying to make sure that we have good patient flow strategies to get people in and out as fast as we can. As we move on to the upper floors, we are creating 2 floors for a total of 49 new private rooms. In order to create this, we will be decanting 49 single beds. So a potential of 98 new private beds on the campus out of our licensed bed count of 247, with no change in the 247 number. It will help us also, during a pandemic where we have a surge instance, we could always surge up some of the beds that we decanted. But again, our intent is to stay at our 247 and provide a contemporary space. Looking at the lobby view from the top. Yep.
So you said, I might just be misunderstanding, because I don't work in healthcare.
Yep.
So, you said that currently there's just 49 single beds and you're gonna do 49 private rooms. So you're basically just turning like an open like room with beds into like individual rooms, or is that?
So we're building individual 2 floors. I
Yeah.
believe it's 24. Thank you, Jonathan. 24 and 25, second and third floor, that are going to be individual private patient rooms. In another area of the hospital yet to be determined, it's either gonna be 4 east or west or 3 east and west, which are now 1 room, 2 patients. We're gonna decant those, so those are private
Okay,
as well.
got it.
So we see 98 rooms potentially become private. Our census is so high, we run well above 90% most of the year, that when you start talking about having to limit patients because of gender, respiratory viruses or other reasons for isolation, you end up closing a lot of beds when you have non-private beds.
Yeah.
So again, it's about efficiencies and flow with minor changes to our total bed count that we're looking to achieve. Our architects have settled on 2 colors, I believe blue and green, of what the different floors would look like. So when people get off, it's gonna tie probably into our wayfinding. But this is a sample of a nursing station, semi-enclosed by glass. So this is a rendering of our new patient room. The panel above the bed, which just has a generic artwork there now. We are exploring trying to put something related to Providence. Whether, and then divide the rooms up by season, so we can have 4 different seasons and 4 different, historically meaningful items maybe from Providence, but we'll be able to change out that artwork trying to attend it to our brand and also showcase some of the great things that's doing in the city. This is the ambulance side, and over to the right, you can see we no longer have our EV walk-in. Where you see the trees, we are taking the wall that we have on the Thatch building and try and bring it around. So it all ties in from a design perspective and also potentially provide some green space for people to sit in outside. Well, again, while they're either waiting for family or friends or just want to relax and read a book outside.
Good question. I think I missed, sure you said that. Where is the new walk-in entrance in relation to this spot?
I might have skipped that slide when this one. So right here underneath the Marion Hospital is the main entrance. And over to the left, you can barely make out some red there. That's the new walk-in
Oh,
entrance.
It's
So
off the summit.
walk-in will be right in the front off of Summit Avenue.
so like over here, this is the red you're talking about?
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
so it's in the same spot.
Okay. Which is pretty significant change.
Yeah,
And then the ambulance bay is on the other side across from Spain.
yeah.
Oh, so that's the back of the building you're looking at, the other slide. I think that.
The other one I was looking is on Fifth Street.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's across the street from the Bay Building.
Got it, okay.
So if you mind, David, I had like two questions about that. So for the ambulance area on Fifth Street, is it bigger now? Is there gonna be more ambulance traffic? And do you think there'll be more ambulances, just tying back to North Main? Do you think
Yeah.
there'll be more folks coming up North Main, or do you think it'll be kind of about the same, but just like handled better? Because right now it's a little chaotic.
I believe it'll be handled better, but again, I think our traffic will be about the same. Where we're taking existing walk-in entrance out and adding more canopy space, we'll be able to fit 2 more ambulances in the day, so we'll fit a total of 5 across that entrance. And then as we have currently off to the right, the open parking lots where the overflow ends up.
Okay. And then, are you expecting, I guess, 2 other questions, if you guys mind taking them off. 2 other questions, so you're not expecting more patients, but are you expecting any more staff? And I partly asked because we have RIPTA here, and they have like the staff, they have like partnerships with big businesses, and you guys have a lot of service slots, so that's gonna be like an increase in staff, if there's like a partnership with RIPTA, we could hopefully.
This project, in theory, should require less staff. Because of the way our current layout is of having 6 separate ED teams. You need support staff to staff each team when we go to ramp up. So there'll be some consolidation into one large contiguous space. That may provide opportunities for better efficiency, but so in our plan, we aren't planning layoff of any staff.
Yeah.
We're also, in our TON that we submitted in June and got our approval in September, we indicated we didn't anticipate any new staff being required. So from a staffing standpoint, it's more about that we deploying them better in a space that will allow them to deliver care more efficient.
Can I add something or just?
Oh, that's true.
So the ambulance efficiency, I'm just curious, did you see, like ambulance, like rides to the hospital really go up post pandemic? Like, I know that they kind of have across the country, so I was just wondering if that's reasoning.
Interesting question, and I'm not the best person to
That's okay.
answer, but I will tell you, we have seen an increase in both patient flow.
Yeah.
Our ED people, have reported that our acuity is also higher than it has been in the past, so people that are coming to us are the ones we actually want to see, not people utilizing us like a primary care. So yes, both of those flows have increased for us.
Yeah, I grew up in Boston and I had a major surgery at Mass General 4 years ago, so I've had a lot of experience actually like taking the train to the hospital and walking and like seeing the ambulances come in, and they have like back streets they take so that you don't get invited, so that makes sense.
Do other folks have questions about this project? I have questions, others, but I don't want to monopolize And also, thank you for being here, and I will share that David also came to our community meeting for Ward 3 this summer, and we had really great attendance, so I appreciate all the outreach you've been doing. And I know we've talked about bringing Miriam in before, and their facilities span, if you can see on the map, like so close to and near North Union Street, that was a little bit.
Well, now I'm excited to be able to be part of it, and I've seen some of the, reporting that has come out related to the North Main Street redevelopment areas that were identified, and we own some of the properties that are adjacent to that. So as last minute items that I wanted to add and talk about is that, you know, we are looking at how solar and EV charging, may tie into our future. One of the locations would be our Sayers lot. All of our lots up on our main campus, hard to say, our capacity is above 100%. We are actually utilizing stacking with our valet service company, BP&E, and all 3 lots up on the main campus. And when we are exceptionally busy, we're actually stacking in the arena lot as well. So we don't really have an underutilization. There is need for how we're using them. We'd like to use them better. Right now, most of our focus is getting this project done. From when we break ground, hopefully around June, this will be a 36-month project for us. So we're not looking to have the new space complete for about 3 years. And this is going to take most of our resources. And at the same time, we have a few things we're working on about trying to put possibly solar canopies and EV charging in 7th Street. It's a lot that makes sense for us, but there's a lot of real estate available at Sears lot and the arena that make it a good candidate for utilization that way. And I'd be open to, you know, thoughts from the group, whether they think that's a good use or not.
Sarah, did you have those?
Since you set it up, I didn't know, but you've used a lot of words that are like words that I love, you know, net zero, environmentally conscious, solar, EV charging. But you also do have a ton of surface parking and circulators bringing people in from remote surface lots. And so I would suggest that you might want to think about, you know, the role for maybe not patients so much, but definitely for employees to have an alternative where they don't drive. But where as a benefit to the employee, they could be encouraged to take the bus. The Arlen is right there. And this is what you get for now having Brown in the name. Brown University is an incredible partner of RIPTA, and all of their students, all of their faculty, and all of their staff are given bus passes. And many do use them. It doesn't work for everyone, but it's an incredible benefit to offer. So with that pitch, I do want to ask how the parking works. Like the adjacent parking, I think is for visitors and patients, right, coming in and out. Do the staff park? Like, is there some allocation that is like a hierarchy of who gets to park where?
Yes. So our main campus on the main block, we have 4 separate lots. We have B lot, C lot, which are right across the street on Summit. C lot is utilized on 3rd shift for staff, but during the day, it's strictly patients and visitors.
Yeah.
The B lot across the street is utilized strictly for visitors and valet. And then I'm going to go over to 7th Street. At the top of 7th Street is our doctor's lot. And then below that is we call it the 30-year plus lot for employees. So people that have been with us for 30 years and more have space there. Everybody else, I think the arena is a 10-year lot. So everybody that's talking there is in there at least 10 years. And everybody else is either in Sears lot, in married, or less frequently lately because of the way we've been operating down on space we lease from Collier. So in that shopping,
Yeah,
center, so we have the, I want to say
There's like
50 spots or so near H&R Block. As far as your bus pass thing, I've actually worked at, Marion Hospital for 36 years. I started there in December of 1988. I remember programs that we had where either employees could get a discounted bus pass through us. They could get that through, paychecks deduction thing. I brought it up in one of our meetings about how we can try and, work better there. I, as the facilities person, wouldn't necessarily be the one that spearheaded in the HR.
Right.
Is most notable the ones that need to be involved to help do it, but I am definitely a supporter of it. I've brought it up a couple of times. Because I also think we have, I'll say level staff that are coming in that need more resources than just the paycheck they get from us. That could be very helpful for them.
David, can
No.
you connect me with the HR person who would be the right person to talk about it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the name might be Tim Shayer, because he's the one that sits on my campus now, but I'll double check with him and then connect the two of you.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Related question, so the, employee parking, is that available, for free for employees, or do they pay like an annual parking pass fee?
It is really, has historically been free. There's been discussion, and we don't want to change that. We don't want it to be another takeaway, that could evolve into,
I asked that question as like, as a Brown employee who gets that benefit of the free bus pass, and also we have parking at Brown, but you have to pay for it as an employee, right? And that really does encourage use of public transit or, walking, biking work, which is what I usually do.
Yeah.
It feels like a thing that like a large employer can manage culturally, that like, okay, this is a thing you can have if you need it, it'll cost you a little something. And that revenue, I mean, I don't know how Brown balances their books, but like one way to fund free bus passes for employees in a revenue neutral way is to take the money from like people paying for surface parking, which has a cost to you, right? As an employer, that's real estate you're sitting on that you could be doing something else with. Again,
They
maybe
are not paying taxes on.
I realize that,
Yeah.
but it's like.
Just to say out loud.
But if you have a need for, a new facility, a new building,
Yeah,
a
yeah,
place
yeah.
where you can't build something, you need for parking, right? And I realize that maybe you're not the person to make the pitch to, because it sounds like you're a supporter of this, but like if Sue, if you're making this pitch to somebody in HR, I think.
Yeah.
But arguments that are very strong, that you're subsidizing parking and
Yeah.
not subsidizing transit.
Yeah.
Sir, I think there's a lot about this, but the Brown pass already covers it. And it probably didn't apply, but there's a lot about like, if you are a deployer within a certain distance of a bus stop, they apply bus passes, but I think it's only if you're renting the parking. And so if the employer owns it,
No.
It doesn't.
Oh.
so like if the employer owns it, it probably didn't apply. And now they're covering it. because
Employer with
Brown-
100 or more employees that leases parking, and so I'm wondering, because you do lease parking, right? At least some of it is leased.
There's overflow areas that we lease, and the Walker's block, I believe, is leased as well.
Yeah, there may be different classes of employee, because certainly you're more than 100 employees. Zach, do you know the details of that law better than I do?
Yeah, part of it is, in development review, it's part of the conversation. It's not a strict rule, it's strongly encouraged, but there is no
I think the
absolute.
state law is a law.
But I
yeah,
think
it may
it's-
not be,
But it's two things. The Brown thing, I think, would cover it, because it's about offering bus passes up to the cost you're paying to rent a parking place. So one, the employer has to be paying to lease space. If it's their own space, it doesn't apply. It's only the ones that you lease. But then if they're providing the Brown pass,
yeah.
Anyway,
I
but
was
maybe-
talking about sort of
but
making
maybe
a
we're
couple
talking about
different
different ones.
things, but at any rate.
Yeah.
And that's how we need to
Yeah.
but there's like pieces with that could,
Yeah.
I mean, again, the Brown thing probably covers all of that. If they're getting those the Brown IDs, that's why.
I don't know what you mean by covers. I guess I'm still trying to understand what
The
you're,
is it, you're saying there's a requirement that you pay?
Because the requirement is around offering a bus pass.
But that
in lieu of
I
parking.
think
That's why I'm
Brown-
saying, there's no absolute requirement. There
But if you have a
are-
Brown ID, you have offered a bus pass.
No, I think that's just the perk.
Yeah, I was just gonna ask, are you guys referring, you saying you think there might be a state statute that says
Yeah.
they have to provide it?
There
We
is.
can, there is, okay, cause I've.
But it's
looked at
very
policy.
limited, it only applies to a very limited number of businesses in the state.
Okay, yeah.
And
so
that
that's-
was like-
And I only, I know part of it is distance from a Richter stop, part of it is they have to be paying for the parking, it doesn't apply if the employer owns their own parking. And then there could be other limitations that I don't.
But I know in our policy team can look into
I
it.
can look into it for you guys.
That would be great.
And regardless, again, I wasn't meaning to imply that it wasn't being followed, it's just that because again, that brown ID, I believe, would cover it. Regardless of any of the details, I'm just curious about like, I guess related to implementation with that, that's, you know, what I mean, it seems like there should be structures there to help encourage. Employee bus pass use for that.
And the partnership with Brown is new, so not all the same perks.
Yeah, I mean,
Like-
that's maybe what I was,
Different,
saying.
yeah.
University is very different
Different
from
than
lifespan.
Yeah, we're separate entities, but there's a licensing agreement and cooperation there. I
Yeah.
believe the Browns Physician Group has joined Lifespan, I don't, but we are not Brown University.
Yeah, and I think a really a key difference, this would be a really nice conversation to be able to have with HR and whoever else ultimately. I think for a hospital versus a university, the role of parking is just, it's historically not quite the same, especially a university that has such deep roots in a densely populated,
Sure.
walkable community and hospitals. It's really, and it's an evolutionary thing for our states, the culture, because I think you were alluding to, although you didn't say it, employee expectations, whether it's written into a contract or whether it's just something that could be a sticking point. I think with the state's climate goals and the growing sort of partnership between labor and the environmental movement kind of jobs, like, I think it's gonna shift, but we're definitely not there yet. So, we appreciate your support.
And I've seen the
yeah.
time where we had it, and I think one of the reasons why we didn't continue it, because it was probably underutilized at the time.
Yeah.
But a lot of different things have changed. People's perception of what our responsibilities are as members of society have changed. Now, some of the discussions that I've brought up around solar canopies in our parking lots and EV charging, which I'm almost positive would have caused an uproar within the neighborhood 15 years ago. That's a great idea.
Yeah.
And there are other, items come up. We were asked about a parking garage. Now, obviously, the people on top of the hill want it at the bottom of the hill, the bottom one at the top, but there's more people that want something like that.
Save the land for something better than a garage. Like,
And-
if
and-
you're gonna convert a parking lot.
Well, if you're consolidating other, like
Yeah, there's
parking
like
from
four parking-
multiple
Sure.
lots, I think a parking garage is a good idea. If you're building a garage and also keeping the other surface lots, that's not great.
Well, and that ties into a potential development, right? So
Yeah.
if we could put a meaningful parking garage on, say, 7th Street
Oh, yeah.
and or the arena, but then turn over something like Sayers for redevelopment.
Right.
That could be a win-win all around.
Yeah.
I will say that the cost per square foot for a parking garage is extremely prohibitive to us by our perception in healthcare, because there's so many dollars there that there's so many other needs that are direct patient care need related, that it's hard for us to even contemplate making that kind of investment in parking.
Can I ask another question?
Oh, please, Patricia.
How much staff do you guys have at this location?
Ooh, that's a tough one. Approximately 4,500, I believe is the number. I can actually find out for sure. But that would encompass all of our shifts for the year, a lot of full-time, part-time, that's like a round
Yeah,
HR number.
can I ask one more question that you might know the answer to? I'm just curious, so my fiance was an EMT in college and his best friend just finally started his doctor career in his like mid-30s. But I'm just wondering, so how many patients, like, on average, do you see in a day, like, come to this? hospital? If you know, if you don't, it's totally fine.
Between 70, a day, I don't.
Mhm.
I can tell you annually the numbers that we've been using this design, between 70 and 80,000 come through our ED a year.
Come through the emergency.
And then, do you expect that number to like increase with the redesign line?
That is not our intent. And I'll say, I've been there long enough that every time that we were able to increase efficiencies and wait times go down,
And then
more people will show up, because there are a lot of people that leave without being seen. But when you look at that number, that is a KPI that CMS looks at for us. And we get penalized for people who show up, check in, and then. So it's a very big negative for us that we don't want people to leave, and we want to have them get seen and triaged first. But our intent of the project is not to increase. We just know as our efficiency increase, wait times go down. We'll probably see some marginal increases.
That's great. To follow up on the question that you asked, if we pivoted to RIPTA, which is my fault entirely, I think doing solar canopies is a great idea, and if I can be helpful in that, we need more EV charging. If you opened it up to the neighborhood, I think people would love to also be able to use that, you just charge for it, which is what a lot of the state buildings are doing now. And so if I can be helpful in navigating that at all, I think that's a great, if you are gonna keep the surface lots, also using them to generate clean electricity is a great.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Oh, no, what were you saying, Patricia?
I was just saying, we've done a lot of research on that for the policy team too. I like encourage that, so now let's look into that a little further.
And making it available to the public ties into whether or not we'd be eligible for federal funding to help put them in. So
Yeah.
we can't get federal funding just to make it for our employees, but if we select lots that allow us to designate areas for public, we could potentially get some federal funding to make it happen. So we're looking at that. It hasn't really gained a lot of traction yet because of the major projects that we have. But based on where we are today and where we want to be in 2030, that's not a lot of time to start making big strides in carbon reduction.
Yeah, and the hospitals, because you guys are a nonprofit, you're eligible for some programs that other large companies aren't in the state, and you can get pretty, anyway. This is what I do professionally outside of the council, as I work, but so if I can be helpful in that at all.
I appreciate it. Any other questions?
Yeah, so I had one more,
Peter and then Nate.
Yeah.
I have one, and then.
sort of connecting the conversation about the employee parking at the old Sears property and pedestrian safety. I've often noticed, owning a business on North Main Street, that it seems kind of a little bit of, lack of crosswalks and stuff behind, like St. Raymond's and near the Sears lot. I'm often driving through there, and I'm just curious whether you've had conversations with, there's such a flow of employees. When we talk about pedestrians on North Main Street, they're Miriam employees. I see them early in the morning, I see them late, often walking in the dark, usually in groups, sometimes alone, making their pilgrimage up the hill. Have you had conversations with the city or whoever it would be about improving any of those parts, kind of behind North Main Street? I'm just curious. Is that a priority for you all at all?
I have not. We had some neighbor complaints on Nashville Street about the traffic at that intersection right behind the church. That we tried to address internally with our employees about making sure they're following traffic rules and being courteous. But I have not approached about the idea of crosswalk or any changes down there. I can talk with our development people. And
I'm just curious.
Yeah, well,
And I can make sure you have the road safety assessment that we did with RIDOT. I think I sent it to you guys, but I now can't remember.
I'm not.
I had an intention to send it to you and Maria, and I can't remember if I did it. Pretty sure. But, because you can see what changes were proposed there. We love it.
We did a traffic study, as part of preparation for this with, engineering firm that did the traffic study. Suggested more, four-way stops, we forwarded that request, and the response back was that we didn't have enough traffic to justify changing those to four-way stops, but.
so, yeah, I mean.
And it was our own data, so.
So, I managed traffic engineering, so I was involved in that. I think it was just, there's federal criteria, and we like to be consistent on that, but any, we can look into it, or we can have discussions with you about some type of pedestrian safety from those lots up. And, anything else you wanna and discuss.
I think-
this. So,
To his point, the area behind Raymond's, is probably the most
yeah,
congested.
Nashville
It's
Street,
already a four-way stop, but there is not, crosswalks there. I don't know if that would be
Yeah.
helpful or not. Most of my staff that do walk, go up in between Raymond's and the old Pep Boys to Dunkin' Donuts, and then up, 7th Street.
okay,
That's the bulk of our walking traffic. Some people walk from the arena, but most of it is,
Right. so, but, yeah, so it's a lot there, okay, we can take a look, some of that. But the other thing the question I was gonna have is, you mentioned that you're gonna be breaking ground in June and 3-year construction.
Yeah.
So, is there a need to go into, does your work zone require you to go into the public sidewalk or street to construct, or?
So this building is gonna require, new sanitary and storm sewer.
Yeah,
So we'll be doing
But I'm-
that and some of the sidewalks in the area.
Okay,
I wanna say if you're from 6th Street to, 5th Street, something like 70% of that sidewalk is gonna need to be replaced when we do that work.
yeah, I'm, yeah, we understand when they put the utility line, you have to do that, but something permanent, like, permanent occupation, just to build the building. Something to think about, because that's a lot of, we deal with a lot of building projects, and it's nice to think about that sooner rather than later in terms of, there's a need to, I don't know, this isn't right at the back of the sidewalk, so it's less of an issue, but I don't know what it is on 5th Street, but,
It's about the same, we're trying to keep that same distance
okay,
from where it's on.
Do you mean during construction or after?
during construction, yeah.
So
Is it
during,
getting- Yeah,
sorry, go ahead.
that's what I thought that you were meant.
Yes,
One of the ideas floated by the construction firms that we had talked to, was staging in our B lot, potentially having, a tower type crane in B lot, and requesting from the city about closing that section of, Summit Avenue from 6th to 5th as a loading and unloading area.
Yeah.
My initial thoughts to that were a little bit of shock, and I don't know how our neighborhood would accept that idea. But we are at the point now where we're doing our MEP work to try and figure out the logistics. And we'll be putting those plans together, very soon. We'll definitely, our engineers will be in touch for sure.
Because there's issues, this is not the question that you're getting back to me on, but there's issues with missing sidewalks around there too. Like, I go to Spain for appointments once in a while, and I walk up like Hope, and then I cut in, and then when I leave, I go down and catch the R line in North Main. And I think it's 5th, where there's just no sidewalk.
Oh, yeah, there's no sidewalks from.
So like a
Highland
bunch of
to-
them, and it's like, you're like walking down the steep hill.
Yeah.
It's just like these long blocks, the drivers can go kind of fast, and then there's no sidewalk, and I'm having to like pick which street I do based on where there's sidewalk or not. It's
Yeah.
like, it's not really ideal for getting from Thane.
Down
To our line.
Yeah.
Is there space for a sidewalk or like? if we-
I don't know that there
It's
is.
not like.
The people's property's kind of like,
Yeah.
it's like a hill and there's some trees there. I know, cause I
Some of
walked, one of my
them slow.
friends lives at the first house at North Main and 5th. And I walk from my house to her house very frequently.
That one kind of slopes, right?
Yeah, it kind of slopes, and so anyway, it would be hard to get a sidewalk there, but there is a sidewalk, I think, on the other side. Anyway, yeah, I know.
4th Street has decent
I
sidewalks.
think I might
now.
be going down to 4th sometimes, because I see 5th,
Yeah.
don't like it.
Yeah, you can walk on 4th all the way down, there's sidewalks. 3rd, we're replacing some sidewalks, so that's. on the way.
7th Street has been one of the areas where we've had some, falls due to a very large tree. That takes up most of the sidewalk, almost abutting, the gas station.
Oh, yeah.
On the
you're
right-hand side.
that. You've had falls there?
A couple.
Okay. And to Peter's question, before I get back to you, Rachel, Peter's question about the folks pilgrimaging from Peninsula up. If there's a group of employees who ever want to talk about that area, like you just heard the presentation from Kyle on lighting in that stretch. If there's other things they want and they'd like to give that feedback directly, I'm happy to come sit with them. I know I met with a group of your employees around Earth Day, because they were doing like the North Main Street cleanup, so I did the North Main Street cleanup with them. And we were just chatting, and they were like, yeah, we kind of scurry across the street, and I was like, oh my God, please don't die. So if they want that, like, just let me know, I'm happy to come to that.
If you would send me information and if there were things to
Yeah,
get out there to our employee notifications, to let them know that there was a form for them to talk.
Yeah.
We can do that.
awesome. If they want that, there's no pressure, just like if they want to give feedback, not through an administrator, but if they want to just talk to someone and be like, we need some lighting, or we'd love a crosswalk, like, I'm happy to talk to them.
Thank you.
And then Rachel, your question.
Yes, did we get Nate already?
Yeah, Nate, that's your question, right?
So my question, kind of, we're actually just starting to get into it. So we've been talking about this as Marion's impact on North Main Street. But we have, someone who's often here but not here tonight, and in public comment asks about North Main Street impact on Marion. And talks about like changes on North Main Street and how that might impact, like ambulance access and stuff like that. And so I guess I'm curious about, I mean, you might not know, because I'm asking in the opposite direction of this presentation, but I'm curious about whether any of the changes we've been working on so far have impacted Miriam, and then if there are other things that you'd like us to know, like either you'd like to see or, you know, that are on your mind about North Main Street right now. Again, in terms of people getting to Miriam or otherwise Miriam's needs.
Leading up to this meeting, I was trying to think about the different things that I may speak to, specifically related to North Main Street, because that's what this task force is for. And, you know, it just reminded me of the stark difference between the feel of Hope Street and the feel of North Main Street, and how it would be nice to try and bring some of the feel of Hope to North Main Street. And from my perspective, I was just looking at the different types of businesses we have there. And they're not necessarily the types of businesses that are gonna attract that same feel. Like up on Hope, we have 7 Star Bakery, we have a lot of things that kind of fit the feel of a 15-minute city where you can walk here and walk there. And I don't think, we don't have the infrastructure of core businesses on North Main to really support that now. I'd love to see that change in the future. But as far as impact to Marion, we're probably a bigger impact on the area than the people walking around.
To go off what Rachel is saying, I think what she's referencing is things like speed lumps or raised intersections or stuff that sort of impacts how ambulances are moving about and other emergency
Yeah, and I
vehicles.
really mean any of it. So I mean, that stuff, but you know, having it always stop, like these different plans that we talk about, how do they impact Marion? Because yeah, there's someone who's brought up speed humps a number of times.
Yeah, like all the different like traffic calming type stuff that we've been talking about. There's somebody who's like, you know, I was riding in an ambulance and having speed bumps would have killed me, you know, heading to the hospital. So that's part of it too. So
in our near area, most of our ambulance traffic approaches us from North Main Street up Smithfield Ave, especially since it's been changed from one way to two-way.
Yeah,
The ambulances a lot more of them come up 7th Street than ever before. I think that for us, it's probably a positive. For the people that live on 7th Street, it's probably a negative. I think not having speed bumps, has worked well for us in the area because of what you're talking about with ambulances. 7th Street more than 5th, we see speeders, trying to
like other
cut through.
people speeding, okay.
Regular pedestrians, like just trying to cut through from one side to the other.
Or
But,
drivers or
but not
pedestrians?
all. I mean, I don't think it's a major complaint in the neighborhood.
One of those intersections, and I don't know if it's Highland and 7th or not, and you may have already, Rachel, referred to it or someone, feels like it should be a 4-way stop, but it's
Oh,
not.
yeah, that's 7th and Summit, I think. 7th or 8th and Summit, feels like it should be a four-way stop, and it's
What was
not.
the one that?
Definitely
7th and something.
Yeah,
I all.
Yeah, cars like.
yeah, it's definitely 8th and Summit. It feels like you're like, and then
Like
it's
next
like
to
you
the
always
temple
like, die.
there, that intersection?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's one of those intersections, there's actually a white line on the street, like maybe where there used to be a stop sign. That,
I think
that's
that's,
me as a pedestrian, I'm not sure if that's.
I think that's, I think there's some of those on Summit.
Yeah, there's a bunch of them, yeah, I think you're talking about me.
Yeah. It has a stop bar, but it's not always.
Yeah, we could at least, like, it's not gonna be a stop sign, at least take those out, because that's like, I see that and I start stepping out into the street, you know, thinking that.
Yeah.
And with all this meeting, we have parking lots and stuff.
I just have one last question. And
Thanks.
You
In that zone,
Yeah,
plans
that was
to
trying to-
put like a bike
any of it.
parking rack, like, you know, lots of like bike lock racks sort of things to encourage employees to use a bike to work or something like that.
So we have at least one or two in front of Bain. In this design, we're planning on adding, I believe, two. One on the Bain side and one on the inside corner.
By one or two, do you mean two, one or two whole racks or just?
Yeah, one side is right, we're gonna abut the building, so you can't use both sides, you can only use one side of it, so we put it in two.
And like how many like, you know how they have the kind of like they're like squealy, you know, like how many of those are there, like how many?
We don't have that style, the style we have is more like what, when I was in school, it's square and,
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
tired.
and straight, but, I believe there's four of those total.
Do you have any car parking spaces you have total, like the surface? parking?
I should, I
Fine,
can get
yeah,
it to,
I mean, but yeah, that's fine, I'm just curious.
Any other questions? Well, I'm so glad to hear. I'm excited for us to follow up on all the things we discussed, and thanks for sharing like what's going on. And if there's ever anything that's happening on North Main, or you guys like feel the one is doors always open. We meet once a month, and I know I'm meeting for you pretty soon. So.
and I'm interested in trying to stay abreast of the initiatives that you're trying to do. The gentleman that left, I'm actually interested in the lighting that he's gonna use.
Oh, yeah.
It looked nice, would it fit on our campus? And, you know, I always, like, when you go to a place like Disney and it's just like
Yeah.
stepping into a different place, different time, I'd love to be able to have that feel. We don't have the resources to do that, but if we could match something that the city's doing
Oh,
very close,
I
very
can send
open
you the
to
specs.
collaboration like that.
And, our February meeting, we're gonna bring back that light, like, so Kyle is our project manager and council, but our project director, but we'll bring the consultants in, so if there's, and the area north of, Rochambeau, the part of what's being discussed, and you guys are in that area, so if you wanted to come back to hear that.
If you send me the,
I'll send you the,
I
yeah,
am planning on traveling in, February, but if it's not then. I'll-
if it's not then, perfect.
Yeah, this is actually very helpful, thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much. Awesome, the last agenda item, or second to last, is remind you of upcoming meeting dates. And you should have the February and March dates in your calendar from Claire already. She's amazing and just the best ever. So we're trying to schedule those out a little bit in advance. And so as we get to those, then we'll start scheduling these ones out. Excited to keep moving. And
Like, do we have those dates to say out loud, or?
I can look them up. February 12th, otherwise known as Abraham Lincoln's birthday, 5:30. And
How do you just know Abraham Lincoln's birthday offhand?
this is also my dad.
Oh.
Yeah.
I don't know that.
And March 19th. Yeah, I like that you just thought that I just like know the president's birthdays.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, thank you, Molly. Did anyone sign up for public comment? I didn't make the announcement like I normally do, so that's my bad. So if anyone wanted to make public comment and you didn't sign up, you're more than welcome to. Yeah, go for it, and just say your name.
My name is Claire, I'm gonna spell it.
Oh yeah, Claire will give you that.
Oh, yeah, I'll pull it. I'm here with the Streets Coalition, forgive me if I haven't been at the school meetings, forgive me if this has come up, but I'm wondering about camera enforcement on North Main Street, and particularly, I think it's come to light to us at least that there are a couple of, spots where, which are actually within sort of a quarter mile of schools that, could be, where cameras could be placed on North Main. and I'm just wondering, I don't know if there's questions, but, or more, just more comment, but, it would be great if that could be looked into more, and potentially also widening the zone around schools, but I know that's not under the remit of this, committee, but yeah, so those cameras in particular, it would be great if the committee.
Someone,
Cool. And
speed
one
cameras?
quick- Yes.
Yeah.
cameras. One quick note before Nate responds is that Patricia, we got this comment from Jamie, thank you, and Patricia is starting to look into the radiuses, radii, whatever.
Yeah,
And what that looked like, so we'll have more to follow up on at the next meeting.
yeah, I already researched it a decent amount, I just have to like talk to the policy team about it, but we are gonna go over that at the next meeting. I do know that one of the two locations that was brought up is feasible for it, there's just a process we have to go through at the state to get it approved, obviously, through the state traffic commission. So we just wanna make sure we have that process laid out, so we know what we're doing.
Yeah,
But
so
we are
Speed
aware
camera?
of it.
yeah, there is like apparently a school within a quarter mile, which we didn't really, anyway, so that could be a speed camera, if
Yeah.
we're following that.
Yeah, I think it's probably more of a. Is it a,
Going to
state
the
traffic
FCC.
commission?
Yeah.
Well,
What's
it could be PAT, but.
Yeah,
It went
does
to-
the state traffic commission need to, yeah, so it's just.
Yeah.
Physically putting the camera there, we would just need a.
Yeah.
Physical operation,
Yeah, before we
Um,
brought it to the committee, we wanted to like research it. So Patricia-
and, yeah, I mean. We're moving cameras. Somewhat regularly, we don't have the next one scheduled yet, but probably could be, something we'll look at probably between now and the spring.
Yeah,
So, we can look at that if there's, I wasn't aware that there was one. Takes a little longer because you need to get that PEP from the state, but not too much longer.
yeah, I had looked into it a little bit and I didn't think you needed a PAP for this one, like, I know that for the red light cameras we have to, but there was nothing in the general laws that I found about
Well, it's,
that, so.
We can follow
But
up
yeah.
next time, this isn't like the.
Yeah.
I think there is
So,
because it's, you're altering the. It depends where it is on North Main Street too, because part of North Main Street is.
It's part of the
city
state
street,
owned road.
State-owned road.
Yeah.
All right.
And then we mostly look at it for, like ADA, like wherever the
Yeah.
condition, make sure that. it's not-
We've gone through that before, it's not,
Yeah,
I think we understand what they're looking for this time, because we've recently gone through that, so it shouldn't be as long of a process.
well, yeah, we'll follow up in the next meeting.
But we usually will look at that amongst other sites that are eligible for speed cameras, and, probably collect some data in terms of the speeding, which probably is significant, so.
Into the quarter mile radius, that is unfortunately state law, so if that's a request, that would be best asked of like your state senator and rep, if like, because right now it's set at a quarter mile, you're thinking like a third of a mile would be better, or half a mile, or whatever you think, that is state law, so you can't. We could like write a letter, I could write a letter in support or something, but, we can't do that.
We also could like vote to collectively write a letter.
Yeah, we could both collectively sign a letter.
Like, it's not something we've done, but like we could, if it were a question of state law,
Yeah.
in some area that helps do what we're trying to do.
But the General Assembly has kicked off for the season, so that would be a timely thing to think about right now. I don't remember when the bill filing deadline is, but it comes up faster than we think.
Yeah, like I forget it today. Yeah, I don't remember.
We're year round. And they are not, so. I forget what they're doing.
But we are aware, so that'll come next meeting. Thank you.
Any other comment? No comment? Really?
Yeah, just to confirm.
And say your name, please, for
Dylan Johnson from the Streets Coalition. Are there any state roads that have speed cameras from the country? Just kind of a question.
Well, we have a permit to put one on Hartford Avenue that we're gonna be putting on, and we're looking to put one on a couple. That we have a permit, a fiscal corporation from MIDA to put one on Hartford Avenue near Cheaper First. And then on Smith Street near LaSalle. We're working with RIDA to get the permit on that, but those are the two that we.
So they do need permits from.
Yeah,
but that's-
Yeah, it's any type of alteration that's in their public right of way on a state road, so that's what we.
Okay, just trying to engage with the process. Is the way we-
Yeah, it's not so much putting a speed camera, it's putting anything on their public right of way. It's,
Yeah, there's other communities where we
Yeah.
gone through this process, East Providence is one, I think Pawtucket's another.
Right.
Right now on their website, it has a section for traffic cameras, so you can see where all the ones they currently have are, at least for traffic cams, I don't know about.
It goes our, like traffic management, like,
Yeah, they're not. speed
not,
cameras.
they're not speed.
I was on their website all the time.
And just thank you to this group and to Sue, who's the council president. The lighting upgrades are really important. That's your lighting. Preserving that tree canopy while also lighting that pedestrian level. So thank you for that. So it's a big investment.
Any further comments?
Okay, just sort of like a process thing, but Sue, you already put up a conversation earlier with your strategy
can't
on the
straighten
agenda, which is fine. I often find myself feeling like I'm a little bit out of the loop on some of those, like smaller updates and upgrades are being in the street or what's planned for the next month. And I'm wondering if we could like build in some space in the agenda for just a few minutes, like Sean's given some updates on if you're changing signage, if you're changing stripes, whatever. And maybe also if there's anything, if there are any updates from somebody representing the city for anything that's being worked on, just to keeping up in the loop kind of update every month. Is that a thing that you
Well,
guys be okay with?
I'd be interested in that, but I also would be interested, this is something I've been thinking about for a while, it's like, if we could have a standing item for like safety updates, so there's one thing that's like updates of things
Yeah.
being done, so, you know, updates, whether it's from Sean or from Providence. But then there's another, it's two standing items, one for that, and then one for like any incidents that have happened, like new safety, you know what I mean, because
Sometimes
sometimes.
like a report from Lieutenant Brown.
And a little
Yeah, well,
discussion.
but I think for any of us, because sometimes what happens is we're here and then people will raise something in public comment, but we might have known about it, but we couldn't bring it up earlier or something, and so just actually having the space to get into that. Like arising safety issues. would help.
Yeah.
And to close the loop.
So like a yes and for Jamie, so,
I think I'm also thinking like some of the stuff that we talked about, like the improvements that we're doing summer, you know, Doyle intersection. Like you talked about some stuff that's gonna happen. I don't think we ever got enough data on like what was implemented fully, you know, like I don't like being fuzzy in the details. So I'm just kind of like looking to make sure we're all more clear.
Yeah, and I can work with the clerks and the legal teams to make sure whatever we put in the agenda, I know at some point I got. Figure away from someone who was looking because my agendas were too fuzzy, so I just want to make sure that, I'll just follow up to make sure that they are as specific as they need to be, but still we've opened the opportunity for conversation. I forget who gave me the finger wag, but I definitely got a finger wag.
I was just gonna raise my hand and just say we can also have help draft the agenda on the policy team, who's day to day, like I check in with Kyle and we and the council staff, like we're pretty on top of all that stuff. Cool.
Thank you. Awesome, can I have a motion to adjourn?
No,
Oh, what I do?
well, exhibits.
Oh, there, let's do this. Can I have a motion to enter the Marion, presentation to exhibit one, please?
So
Seconded.
All in favor? And then can I have a motion to enter, the halophane as exhibit two?
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Excellent. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
motion so moved.
Second, okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Excellent, thank you.